Resisting this new timeline jump won't work, collective. There are a lot of people who ultimately are trying to resist the new alignments that have been made for them. My dear, when I tell you, you cannot resist it, it is coming, it is happening as you continue to align with yourself, choose yourself. This is where the path is going. And of course, I called on the beautiful Archangel Michael to help me deliver this message today. And I want to sit here and say and address because some of y'all might be thinking, you know what, Mama Rain, how am I resisting this new timeline? Ultimately, I desire it. I'm doing everything to align with it, or I have been in the past. You know, I thought so too for me as well. So let's get into it because a lot of these messages, yes, they come from the divine and it's being shown to me, but it's also things that the collective that I'm connected to are going through. Thus, I'm experiencing these things myself. Okay. So I can talk about these things from a very personal level. I feel like our spiritual journey has ultimately been the entire span of our soul. Okay. However long it's been. But let's keep it to the earth plane since the moment we've been born, okay, or been crafted in our mother's womb. And it's been a continuous journey of exploration, right? For me, and I feel like for a lot of the collective that I'm attached to, you have been the ones that have been tasked in your bloodlines to be the generational curse breakers, and now moving into the energy of being the pathway shower, right? The new pathway shower after you've broken those generational cycles and patterns. Now, typically, if you have been tasked to be the one to be the generational cycle breaker, right? The pattern breaker, and break the trauma bonds and break, those repeated cycles that those that reincarnate or incarnate into your bloodline are going through, right? That's not an easy job. For me specifically, I know that I was faced with the choice of death. That's it's really was the only choice that was given to me, or life. And so I decided to choose life. And in choosing life, I had to break some of the hardest things imaginable. And so what I'm saying, collective, if you are part of this soul collective, the soul tribe, that is ultimately breaking the generational patterns, you typically had to more than likely face death or something that brought you close to death in order to choose life, right? To fulfill the destiny that's been placed on your heart, you know, um, the path that's been guided by God's hand. And in that, there's usually a lot of trauma that we experience, and it's trauma that's ultimately shaping us to our greatest version, right? It's allowing us to rise above it, to have a death and rebirth process. And so resisting this new timeline won't work because you've been doing all the work. You've been going deep within. You've been doing the excavation work. You've been doing the deep shadow work, okay? And in that, you birthed a new version of self. And in birthing a new version of self, that reality that you used to operate in can no longer exist. It doesn't exist, okay? And in it no longer existing, you are right now in this weird in between space, right? Where your reality may not have physically changed all the way because there has been changes to your reality in this journey, okay? But it may not have shifted fully to where now it is matching the reflection of self of who you truly are at this particular point in time within your life. And you've gotten comfortable in this state because you've known a reality that hasn't fully embraced you or allowed yourself to be the authentic version. Now, mind you, discovering the authentic version of self has taken some time. I'm gonna say in many cases it has taken some years, okay, to really get to know yourself authentically, to be able to strip the layers, okay, to be able to reclaim your mind, Okay, there's a lot of mental upgrades that are happening, and I feel like they're happening even as I'm speaking, because I'm speaking to different aspects of myself, the, the conscious self, the, the subconscious self, the wounded self. And there is an energy that is coming in right now that is saying we really cannot resist this timeline jump. You no longer fit. You are an anomaly, okay, in the world that you are operating out of. Okay, and there's many there's oh there's many messages that spirits been um giving me about, parallel existences. Okay, those that, have stayed stuck and chose to stay stuck, and they will be seeing those that made those jumps, right? And I do feel like this is a massive wave of those that are getting ready to jump, right? Like the first wave of those that are getting ready to jump to their new timelines. And so you're in this weird in between space, and you got uncomfortable because despite, the trauma that you've experienced, and I'm not saying you're going through any more trauma at this particular moment, not in the way that you used to before. You're like, okay, you know what I mean? I'm honoring myself here. I'm allowing myself to grow. I know who I want to be. I'm embodying those characteristics. You know, my dear, you don't belong where you're at. And so things have been prepared. And the resistance is coming from the aspect of you that has been wounded, that hasn't known life to show up for you, that hasn't known people to show up for you. And so since you haven't known people to show up for you, and you haven't known the world to really be accepting of you and your authentic self, right? For me, I was a very vibrant, high vibrational child. Okay, I was always astral projecting, lucid dreaming as a child. I thought this stuff was normal. Okay, it was happening so much, And then trauma came in, and I like disconnected from that for like a really, really long time. And now I'm finding myself again, so we're reconnected. But um, so those traumas that you've gone through, still have an aspect of you, subconsciously, but I do feel like you're consciously aware of it. Um, that are like speaking, right? On like these worries and concerns. And for me, I can't tell you how you're dealing with it specifically because this is a collective reading. But for me, I've been looking at her like, and I'm rolling my eyes at her. Like, again, you're expressing this concern again. Okay, come in, take it. Like, can you take a nap? Because I'm tired of hearing these concerns. Your life is it's going to be completely different. I don't know how. I don't know when. Okay, but I do know that it's going to be different than what that version of myself has, been concerned about. So I call on Archangel Michael, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this reading because, like, I'm feeling this. The team is showing me these things, and I'm like, all right, it's time for something new, y'all. The first card that like literally made connection with my eyes was the clock card. This is speaking to perfect timing. It says unstoppable stands the test of time, past, present, and future. Okay. That means what you are crafting, okay, right now is being aligned for you. And I want to sit here and say that this divine timing, as much as, we think that we have free will and free choice, we do, right? To a certain extent. But I do believe that when we are getting into alignment, with God, right, with the God within, these versions of ourselves, there is something much greater than free will. It's called fate, it's called destiny. And you are aligning with that because you are choosing to no longer reject the versions of self of who you thought you were. Okay? And when you are no longer choosing to reject those versions of who you thought you were, you align with who God made you to be, who God destined you to be. And you've made your choice. So free will plays a part in this. You can either become who God called you to be, and you go through the hardships in becoming that version of self in this lifetime, and you face it. And collective, this is the collective I'm talking to. And understand, if you have not been facing your challenges, if you have not been transmuting, this message ain't for you. Now, for those that it is, okay, that free will, it's again becoming who God wanted you to be, or choosing not to be, but you chose to become who God wants you to be in this lifetime. So that free will choice has already been made, my dear. Now it's the blossoming that's taking root into what's been planned for you in this lifetime. And so the resistance to this life is in that, this life that's unfolding for you is inevitable. It won't work out, and you'll get so uncomfortable. And the reason why I have to talk about comfortability here is because you are going to be forced to make the changes. And I've been seeing this play out in my own life, where I'm being forced to make the changes, right? I've dealt with um sorry, I was thinking if I should say it or not, but Spirit is saying go ahead and say it, tell my story. I've dealt with being homeless. I've dealt with being on this journey, and living out of an old dead timeline car, and that going combust in the mountains of New Mexico. I've you know I've had to really rely on the Creator. I've had to really rely on God for where shelter was going to come in, where my next food source was going to come in. Give me 1 second. Sorry, that was getting kind of loud. Somebody is doing gardening work over, I guess, like apartments over or something like that. Whatever, it don't matter. So, I've had to really rely on the Creator in this journey, and not compromise myself, because that's a promise and a vow that I made to myself, that I wouldn't compromise my characteristics, that I wouldn't compromise myself to make sure that I survived this journey, and I did. So, by the grace of God, by the assistance of the divine, by my guardians, and for that I'm very grateful. And all of this has shaped me. It's shown me who I am in the face of adversary, you know and your things have also shaped you to show you who you really are when it comes down to crunch time, when it comes down to, are you willing to compromise? Are you willing to, essentially deal with opposition, with malevolent spirits to get what you want? And you've held on, okay? This, like, you've held to a certain level of purity, my dear. The highest level of purity that you can possibly attain while working through your stuff. I'm not saying that no mistakes didn't happen or didn't take place, that that you were flawless in this journey. The whole point is to refine. The whole point is to become the best version of self that we can attain. um and then the next card that came out was the walking boots. This speaks to walking away, right? Oh yes, right. So I was speaking to being very uncomfortable. The walking the boots brought that back, y'all. Sorry. So I've been very uncomfortable where I'm at, okay? And Spirit's like, okay, it's time to move. It's time to move. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to move. I put certain things in place, and it is what it is. Waiting for that to unfold. But there's been an aspect of me that has been very, very physically uncomfortable, not mentally uncomfortable. I've worked on my emotions, emotional regulation. I got it. We down packed, okay. Um, but this aspect has been like where I'm just scratching, not just my throat, okay, scratching my face, scratching my arms. You know how, like, let's say you ever kiss someone or use like a perfume or something that just like causes you to break out. And now, mind you, I'm not having no rashes, I'm not breaking out, there's nothing that would cause me to be itchy. It's not like I don't hydrate my body, with I use almond oil, okay, and I've been using almond oil because I don't like all the chemicals and lotions. Almond oil, that's all it is. I know what's going on in my body, okay. I am raw vegan most of the time, or vegan, so I know what I'm consuming, I know how my body reacts to this. I use native products, for when I wash up, because again, I don't I don't like all if I don't know what it is, I don't want it in my body. That's how I operate. I operate from a very deep level of purity. So this uncontrollable itch that I've been going through, and I'm not saying you're itchy, okay? Because your uncontrollable or discomfort could be expressing itself in different ways. It could be expressing itself where you just can't get comfortable, or you can't sleep right, where you're just like maybe annoyed by all the things that are going on around in your surroundings. I have been experiencing annoyance as well too. Okay, so this uncontrollable itchiness is letting me know that as a collective, we are not we're not allowed to get comfortable where we're at. If it's not for us, it's not going to bloom, and our body is physically not going to get comfortable. Whether it's the annoyance, whether it's you experiencing some back pains or shoulder pains or sciatic or whatever it may be, it's letting you know you are not where you belong. And in that, you are now choosing to align with what does belong in your energetic field, but also this is now affecting your physical reality. So my gifts, I love my gifts, okay, but one of my gifts is also very physical, so I feel physically what is going on with the collective. And in this feeling physically with what is going on with the collective, this is now causing me to sit here and choose myself again. you know this is where the boots is speaking to a venture ahead, walking away, taking steps forward, moving forward, exploring what is new and what actively feels good. And this isn't an exploration. I want to sit here and say that this isn't an exploration of, oh, I'm looking to align uh with what's my soul's purpose and what is meant for me from that standpoint. It's an aspect of just exploring right now. Okay. There's been aspects of me that I'm trying to find the words to say it. There's been aspects of me that been not sure how this journey is going to play out for me. I know I'm very gifted as a shaman. I know I'm very gifted as a psychic, as a medium, as a healer, just a natural intuitive person. I'm very gifted in those areas, and others for sure. And the world hasn't reflected that back to me, right? As of yet. And so I've decided to just do this stuff purely based off of the fact that I love it, okay? And for myself in my own healing journey. And I feel like this is where a lot of you are at, collective, um, is wanting to show up more for yourself, not from a place of hurt, even though there was a point where I was hurt that the world did not reflect my calling essentially back to me. And in this journey, I've worked through that hurt and I've let it go. Okay. It's not out here but hurt or anything like that. But I've just wanted to show up for myself, and the things that I genuinely love. What brings me joy, what brings me happiness is the spiritual path. It's giving these messages. It's doing the healing work. It's also just for myself. I've found a version of myself that I never thought was possible to find. I've attained peace in this life. And if you know the life that I've lived, I never thought that peace was possible. I thought that I had to die. And I was like, you know what? Even if everything is dark in death, at least there will be silence and I would be at peace. Okay. I am 36 years now. At 36 years old now. And 20 years ago, when I was 16, I tried to take my life multiple times because of the traumas that I felt and experienced in life. And I felt that there was no way that anything could ever get better. And if somehow you are a teenager or someone that is dealing with hardships that feel like it can never get better, I'm here to tell you it does. I have found the most beautiful, authentic version of myself. And I went through some really hard stuff, even after those suicidal attempts. And collective, the one that I'm talking to, I feel like you've gone through some really hard stuff. And so you understand why you could get comfortable in whatever state you are in now, or mentally prepare and say, okay, I'm going to deal with whatever is coming up. But that's not your reality anymore. You're the person that transmuted those traumas. You're the being that showed up for yourself. You're the being that was able to find peace in the midst of the storm. You were the being that found joy. You were the being that found hope, that found your breath again when it felt like you couldn't breathe, like you were literally drowning under life. And I mean, literally, I felt like I was drowning. Do you know how much I used to smoke? Spirit was like, do you like to smoke or do you like to breathe? I was like, I like to breathe. So it is what it is, right? And I put that down. But the point is, it's not just you don't have to be a smoker, to feel like you were drowning. You could have literally felt like you were drowning based off of all the traumas and the generational patterns and cycles that you were meant to break and that you broke. Okay. And now you are at the precipice of a new life. Now you are at the precipice of a new timeline. And you can't escape that. So as you are walking away, deciding to just explore life, because this is an aspect of exploration that I feel. We got the white feather. And yeah, before I pulled these cards, I picked out this dress. Okay, I have been drawn to white, and they were like, "Today is the day you are going to wear white," and I'm like, "Okay, team, thank you." And so, the white feather is a fresh start. This is where miracles can take place. You've acknowledged a version of yourself that's still a bit doubtful. Woo! Hold on, y'all. That is hilarious. New beginning. Because why? What was holding up my phone fell. Now I feel like I just gotta hold this phone because I don't trust it. You've acknowledged. That was hilarious. All right, can we just take a moment to laugh at how the tower moment? Okay, so I gotta show y'all this. All right. Okay, hold on. How do? All right. Matter of fact, I'm gonna just bring it over. Spirit told me to use the red candle. The red candle. Okay. And that thing is big, like a tower. Okay, so this is, and we're talking about the feather. All right, messages unfold in beautiful and unique ways. Okay, I can't believe that just happened. Anyways, this we're still doing this messages. I'm 20 something minutes in. All right, I'm not doing this all over. It was beautiful. So, uh, for the candle to drop the way it did, it speaks to. I don't want to sit here and say this is a tower moment. This is a new beginning in your root chakra. This is a new this is a new opportunity to continue to align with what's been destined for you. Understand that the white leaf is also speaking to what is going to be happening. This is purity, this is miracles, but this is also protection. This is that is unfolding in your life. It's very much protected and orchestrated by the divine. It's vibrating on a level heart lighter than a feather, where malevolent spirit, those that have sought to hold you in a particular position, can no longer hold you in that position. They won't be able to access what is yours as long as you stay in alignment with the creator, as long as you stay true to the authentic versions of self, because the authentic versions of self are not operating out of hurt. The next card that we have is helm. Okay, so basically, steering the helm. Okay, the wheel of your boat, the driver's seat of your life. Okay, and I can tell you, I had a dream a couple days ago where normally I would have dreams where it was like old cars, things in the past. This was like a brand new car, and it was nice. I was like, oh yes, root chakra, new life loading, upgraded. um, and I don't want to sit here and say I don't take these things very seriously, because I do. I take the spiritual path very serious. Uh, so much that it's all I really enjoy doing all day. Right. So I'm working on my affirmations. I'm working on like the visual stuff, doing the spiritual work, meditation, bringing these messages, fueling my body with the best of the best, and listening to my songs, dancing. That's my thing. I like to listen to music and dance. And when I say, I don't want to sit here and say I don't take it seriously, but what I'm sitting here saying is I don't have, and before I used to, like, I mean, I I would cry. Okay, just even a couple days ago. um Crying about how much I love the spiritual path and what I'm meant to do. I'm so much about this path that I refuse to do anything else. Okay, I am delusional about the fact that this is going to work out, because I just know. Like, if it wasn't meant to work out, why would God put it in my heart as heavy, as it is? So, but at this point, I've gotten to a very detached, point from the outcome of like the destination, because I'm understanding the beauty in the journey, right? How the journey is unfolding for all of us to continue to explore. And in this beautiful journey of exploring ourselves, this is where those alignments take place, because we're no longer attached. So there definitely had to be, on a collective spectrum, a big detachment moment, you know, that took place from anything. And it's not to sit here and say, oh, hey, you don't want things. Like, yeah, of course, I would like stability. I would like to, to own a home that, is nice, got nice things, got a little luxury stuff that's gonna last a little bit, um so I don't have to, keep getting things that just ain't serving. I'm starting to be attracted to the good. But um, there's no but. It's when things are gonna unfold, it's gonna unfold when they unfold. That's really it. That really is it. Um, and I'm allowing myself to walk away, right? Using discernment, because as you crafted this new version of yourself that's no longer serving the timeline that you are in, um, you're walking away not looking for what's next. You're just looking to enjoy yourself. You're looking to enjoy the moment. You're looking to explore um what life has to offer at this point. Whether it's like, I'm gonna go explore, the city and see what the city has. Are there art shows? Are there events that I can go to? Different types of things. This is where you're just, well, if I haven't tried it, let me try it before. I mean, oh, cancel that statement. If I haven't tried it, let me try it. See if I like it. See if I align with it. You don't know what's gonna happen in these events, in these places of exploration. And the overarching card is Owl. So you've been able to see through the facade of your wounded self, of the false lens in which, you know, she or he is viewing things from. You're able to see that there's been trauma which shaped her thoughts and her reality. And but you're no longer that version of wounded self. That's why, I look at my wounded self and I'll kind of give her the side eye like, chick, here we go again. Okay. All right. You want to take a nap? Mm. All right. Sometimes I just roll my eyes at her. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, because it gets frustrating. Um, you know, something coming up in your mental field that, with much respect, you've already gotten out of, that you know it's not your reality, it's not your existence anymore. And again, this is why I say, like, like in this journey, your physical reality has already changed, but it hasn't changed drastically to the point. Oh, okay, I don't want to say drastically because my reality has changed drastically, but it hasn't changed to the point where the world is truly reflecting to you the versions of you authentically, and just the beautiful bright spirit, the bright light, the star that you are. And now you're walking into that reality. That is what's true, and that is what's new. And so if you're dealing with uncomfortableness, understand that this uncomfortableness is ultimately a nudge by the divine, or more than a nudge, and for some people's cases, a true strong annoyance to make a change. And in those changes, you're not getting insight into the direction in which you must be going, because you've evolved to a version of self where you can trust, um, that this is where you've evolved to a version of self that you can trust, that whatever you're going to align with is something you choose to align with, and it's much smarter decisions that you've ever done before. And in that, this is where the miracles and opportunities can take place, because you've really discovered and gotten to know who you are. So, y'all, this is all I have to say. Peace from me and spirit. Take care.